I just wanted to come on here really quick and make this video and talk about Splenic Authority and just how funny it is really to have this this impulse, this sudden urge to act and to move, and how important it is to listen to that. And I think it takes time to really work with it and really assimilate it into your life, because essentially at any moment you could be doing something and then now you're interrupted, we could use a better word, but you're now instantly shifted into this new energy, into this new moment where you have all of this access to energy and clarity and success. It's like this supercharged moment of absolute alignment. And that's what's happened just now. I'm in the process of doing my regular morning foam rolling and stretching, and I had this idea and I'm like, oh, I definitely have to share about that. I definitely have to share this story about this splenic decision experience that I had. And I've had this idea a few times, and I've even written it down because it's always come to me that impulse, that energy to make the video has come to me in a moment where I'm like, I can't make the video right now, I'm in the middle of making dinner. I can't just walk out or do whatever and record this video. So I'm in this moment right now, and even though it's slightly inopportune, part of the lesson that I learned from this story I'm about to share is about doing things in the moment, because there's a reason why you're getting that impulse right now. It's slightly different when it comes from ideas, maybe there's not that safety pressure, but you don't know, there might be. And so that's why I want to share this, and also this bit of information that I learned, which I think is really helpful. And it's about this kind of mirror between the emotion center, the solar plexus, and the spleen. Because what happens is it's almost okay, so you know how there's transferred motivation, right? I think that's the easiest one to understand. And so if you're in my motivation is desire, and so my transferred motivation is innocence. And so it's the solar plexus and the spleen are transferred views of one another, okay? And so that's what I heard in this video, was what tends to happen is people who have emotional authority, who should wait, who should sleep on it and take some time to ride this emotional wave and go through the whole process of feeling the entire experience of what's happening. And then once they find this settled place, whatever it lands on of is this a yes? Do my emotions feel happy and positive and in this yes category? Or is it a no? Has it settled on a no? And it's my emotions feel like it's a no. And what tends to happen is people with emotional authority tend to make fast decisions, emotional decisions, things that are almost on their first impulse of, this feels like a yes right now. And then they haven't rode their wave, they haven't given themselves time, and then they've said yes, and then, after a bit of time goes by, they're like, shit, that was actually a no, right? And then the opposite thing with the spleen, people with splenic authority, don't take that initial impulse. They go and they're like, I know exactly in this moment, I know what I need to do, I know the action I need to take. And then they don't do it because they're like, how could I really know? How could I be so absolutely sure? And I basically know nothing about this scenario. It's just this intrinsic understanding of what is good, what you want to do, what's correct, and what's not. And I think that because it's so immediate in a lot of cases, maybe we don't trust it. And we're just kind of like, maybe I'll just wait. Right? And we have this conversation and then we go, okay, I'm just gonna, my initial impulse, like this is what I've done, right? My initial impulse, let's say, was a yes. And I'll tell you the story that, like represents this. My initial impulse was a yes. And then I'm like, okay, so I know it's a yes, right? But I'm just going to wait to make sure that it's actually a yes. Okay. And so, and I'm thinking, like nothing's really going to change, let's say. And I can just still make that yes action decision at the point that I like really know for sure that it's a yes, right? So to explain this, which doesn't work, by the way, because the spleen is about in the moment action. It's about right here, right now. If you get a yes, you got to do something about it. Or you got to like, if you can't really do something right now in this second about it, you have to like make some connection to the decision. And that's why I say, like, if I can't immediately make a video right now, then I will write something down. I will pull some elements from the like universe, from the like energetic field that is surrounding the idea that I want to do. And it'll be like I'm like kind of interacting with it. So I'm still like gathering some of the energy that's being like supercharged into me in that moment, so that when I come back to it and like, it's not like I can sit down and be like, okay, now I'm going to do a video. Like that's not going to work. I have to wait for the next moment that I have this like really intense impulse to make that video again. And then I can go back to my notes and I can be like, oh yeah, that was a good point. That was a good idea I had. And then it's like, I'm still in that same kind of energetic field, right? But I'm riding this new wave while still incorporating the old wave scenario. Okay. So the story I wanted to tell is about this Breathwork Summit that I just took the last week. And it's one of those things where you can like show up live and you can, watch whatever, but then you can also like upgrade. So before the week started, they offer you like an extra discount. So it was like 60% off of the regular price or whatever. And I looked at that and I was like, yep, I need to buy this. Okay. So that was like my first impulse. Like I hadn't even started the program. I hadn't even watched a single session. I was like, I saw Breathwork Summit. I signed up immediately and I was like, yep, I need to purchase this. And so I'm in a situation right now where I'm like really like actively changing my spending habits. And so I'm being really, really, really conscious about when I spend my money and what I spend my money on, right? And so it's kind of interesting actually, if you think about someone like this, always goes back to like the paradigm of emotional authority. And so if you think about emotional authority, they should actually, if you have emotional authority, I maybe explore this and see if you have some calling around budgeting or like spending habits or like conscious spending, like something around that. Because basically, like if you want to choose, like make a decision to buy something, you should like interact with it and then sit with that thought and sit with that decision and like allow yourself to ride the wave and then make the purchase, right? So like, and then maybe a lot of the time you'll get a no because it's not the right purchase for you, or it's not the right time to purchase that thing, right? So if that speaks to you in some way, cool. But if you have splenic authority, I have this moment and I'm like, okay, it's a yes. I need to buy this thing. I know that breathwork is important. I know that it's like part of my calling. I know that it's part of this, like this whole process that I'm building, and it's like, it's a hell yes for me, right? And so, and then I go, I'm just gonna wait, okay? So that's my first moment. So I start listening to the programs. Very first program I listened to, incredible. I'm like, I need to buy this, right? And also what I've done is I've opened the tab of the like initial discount price so that it's just like still there, right? So I can just like come back to that tab and I can still get that price, even though when the session, like the summit starts, the price changes. So I'm like having this like security that I'm like, I can just go back and still get that price. So I'm going to just allow myself to like really, really make sure that this is a yes. Okay. So the summit continues, and every single day that I come back and every single session that I listen to, I'm like, have this, when you're like in such alignment and you're listening to something or you hear something and you like start to get emotional because you're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I need. This is for me. This is speaking into my soul. And like, this is part of my journey, And so, and I'm getting these like erupting emotions come out of me. Plus it's a breathwork summit. So I'm doing like these exercises and it's just freaking beautiful. Right. And then I'm like, I get more yeses and I'm like, I need to buy this. Right. And then I don't. And then it's very funny because I'm just like, still waiting for what? I don't know. Because I go into my mind, I guess, afterwards. And I'm like, and I start to calculate all the things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, is this really like something I should buy? Or is this just another thing I'm going to buy and not use and blah, blah, blah. So I start to like talk myself out of it. Anyways, and then this is the most like significant part of this experience is I'm laying there one night and I'm about to go to sleep. And I have this moment and I'm just like, I don't even know what I looked at. I don't know if I just like opened my email. I don't know. But I opened it maybe and it's like, I saw the breath work and it said upgrade. And I just had this moment where I'm like, I need to buy this now. And I had this like slight moment of clarity where I remembered the paradigm between the spleen and the solar plexus. And it's like the spleen is meant to act now. The solar plexus is meant to wait. And then they transfer their like actions or their like jobs. And so then the spleen ends up waiting and the solar plexus ends up acting on the impulse. And so I like had this moment and I'm like, okay, I just need to do my spleen. I just need to like act right now. And I literally go through, I click on it, I go to the tab, I click purchase, I go to like the place where I'm putting my information in and I stop. And I'm like, is this really what I should do? And I second guess myself. And I'm like, it's late. I'm just gonna wait. And I literally say that. And I put my phone down and I go to sleep, okay? And now listen, this is the most incredible part. So I'm there the next day. I'm doing whatever. I don't know. I think I've listened to a session. I get another yes. And then something else pulls my attention. And it's like this like task that I need to do. Some like, thing I need to submit that has a deadline. And it's just been sitting there and it's been like this thing that I'm like, I really have to do that. And so I'm like, I'm going to be in my spleen. I have the impulse. I'm going to start this thing. And I take the sheet of paper and I go to start putting in the URL of the thing that I need to do. And then I realize that as I'm opening my tabs, all of my tabs have just been closed. Out of the blue, no idea how that even happened. I had like 90 tabs open and that's a whole thing. I'm constantly like working to manage my tabs and keep them, below 100 at least so that my phone can function properly. And this has never happened to me before. Like, it's happened on my iPad, but like never happened on my phone, where I've just one day opened it and all of my tabs are disappeared. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, fuck. Because I'm like, wow. So my spleen last night was like, girl, you better fucking buy this right the fuck now, because your tabs are going to close tomorrow. And you're not going to be able to access that price anymore. And so now you're going to have to, you know, have this like turmoil about you were having an issue with like that price, and it was the best price you could possibly get it, and you knew it was a yes, and now you're going to have to go through this whole decision process again with a higher price. You know, like it was like the biggest sign that I was like, shit, the spleen acts in the now, you know? And so then I like took a moment and I like reconciled the fact that like not only did I lose the price of the Breathwork Summit that I really, really, really wanted to buy, but like I had a bunch of other tabs that I really wanted to keep, you know, they were there for a reason. And so I'm like, you know, in theme with the whole breathwork aspect, I took the moment to be sad, to be like, I'm really disappointed in myself, like upset with myself that I didn't listen to that impulse, and that I'm now having to make this new decision or not have it at all, which is something that I know is really important in my life. And then I just took a moment and I like said these things to myself. I'm like, I closed my eyes and you know, I did this in the moment while I was standing there, and I did this again when I like came back because the summit was still going on. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna watch it, you know? And so I like took this moment and I was just silent, and I'm like, and I breathed and I allowed my breath to like soothe me. And I'm just like, you know what? Whatever was open in my tabs, I don't know what was there. So I can always find things. And at the end of the day, you know, I searched through my phone and all of my history was still there. So if I really felt inclined, I could go through my history and I could find those really special articles that I really do want to keep. And the Breathwork Summit, you know, the price has changed and I have to let that go because I can't get it back. It's just gone and my tabs are closed. And the lesson I'm learning from this is I really need to be on top of maintenance for my phone, for storage, for, you know, just regular life of things build up and then they get to this point where, you know, you can't manage them or they get managed for you. So I'm just going to surrender. And I said this to myself. I'm like, I'm just going to surrender to the experience of, you know, I'm a third line and I have things happen. You know, I experiment with things. They don't always turn out. And I always learn a lesson from the experience. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with my tabs being gone. I'm okay with not having the Breathwork Summit at that price because I know with absolute certainty now how important it is to act in the moment when my spleen tells me to. So that in itself is better than just getting the price and never having learned this lesson. And I just totally let it go, you know, and I just listened to another breathwork, you know, session, and I just enjoyed it. And then like absolute freaking magic, all of my tabs came back. And I have absolutely no idea how they came back. And it's very interesting because the tab, you know, I had like 2 internet things open and I closed other things in my phone. And so maybe that like released a little pressure over here and then it somehow was able to come back over here. And it's also kind of like the process that I did, like by surrendering to the experience and the lesson and the knowledge of, you know, my spleen, I kind of released a little pressure over here. And then I was able to like create some space for my tabs to come back, for my like my opportunity to come back, you know. But if I had sat there and been like dwelled about it all day and been pissed off and like talked about it to all these people and like, which I never do, but is something that people do. And I if I just like thought about it and constantly like refreshed that same awful feeling of like how mad I am at myself and for not listening to my impulse, and how mad I am at myself for not getting that price, like I bet you my tabs wouldn't have come back. Like I have no way of knowing for sure, but I don't know. I think it all is influenced by the energy that we're like putting out into the universe. And that was like a big theme in this Breathwork Summit, was about, like, how are you feeding the quantum field? Like everything is energetically connected. We are all connected through our breath. And so every time we are putting out those like energetically charged emotions of anger and frustration and doubt and, and like self-criticism, we're literally like injecting the quantum field with all of that emotion, and like the universe and the earth is taking all of that in, and like we're connecting with all the other people who are feeling that as well. And it's like, it's like it's creating this like downward spiral. But if we just take that moment and we shift, like it's literally, the summit is on the shift network, how appropriate. And we shift and we go and we just let it go, and we're like, there's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. The only thing I can do is take away some lesson and some experience from it, and then do it differently in the future. And then instantly I'm connecting with all of the people who use that as a regular practice, who are in the process of, shifting and changing how they're feeling in that moment, and also not being susceptible to external factors, right? That happened. That was something outside of myself. And then I took charge of how I felt about it. I took charge of what I thought about it, and then it changed. And then I'm connecting with all the people who are like grateful and appreciative of all these things in their life. And I'm like feeding the energetic quantum field with all of that goodness, all of that like high quality energy, right? So anyways, the end of the story was the second I got my tabs back, I was like, I'm buying it, and I went straight to the thing. My tab was open for the $97 was the price. And it was like, boom, it was at the discounted price. I had my screen open. I put my information. It was like, success, thank you for purchasing your upgrade. You can access all of your bonuses. And I was like, boom, that was like the absolute best lesson I could have ever asked for. And with like the best happy ending I could have ever asked for, So kind of a recap. If you have emotional authority, waiting is your best case. It's your best strategy. If you have splenic authority, do not wait. It's not meant for you. You're not here to wait. You're here to go. I have this energy in my body. I have this feeling. It's super strong. It's intense, and follow it. Okay? Because it's going to lead you down a great path. And it's, it's a little bit like, sometimes you don't always get that like super gratifying, result of the reason why you made that decision right exactly in that moment. But hopefully the story also like helps you when you get those impulses that you're like, shit, like my tabs might close tomorrow and I have to do this right now. I don't know. But anyways, I have another couple stories that are around splenic authority that also kind of like reconfirmed this idea of like doing it in the moment. But I'll save that for another video. So basically, that's all I have to say about that. And I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.